Okay, let's start. Welcome to the last talk here, and I really appreciate everyone who appeared. Yes, my name is Thomas Burkhart. For those who don't know me, probably you know my package Get It as one long time building block. And I want to talk today about something that I thought a lot about in the last years. And I mean, I'm kind of a legacy system, yeah, because I think I'm in IT for more than 30 years now. So you see a lot of trends come and go. And I said one repeating pattern over the years. Things that there are certain opinions that are spread and very furiously fought for. Things like service locators are an anti-pattern. I mean, with Get It, something I heard a lot at the beginning. Or you should aim for 100% unit tests. If you have a mobile app, you have to use the build context, yeah? I mean, when I started out with Flutter, I came from Windows development. I was just asking, why should I use in context to access anything? There's no real reason, yeah? And I heard again and again, yeah, but you have to. It's an Android app. You have to use the build context, yeah? And I said, why? Yeah? And the same. Exceptions are bad suddenly. Yeah, you say, okay, no, don't use exceptions. That's bad. It's bad coding style. And please don't use inheritance a lot. Inheritance is so dangerous and bad. Don't do it. And block is the best state management at all. Yeah, and all the time, mutable data is evil. Yeah. So the thing is, if you look a little bit closer, these opinions are expressed as if they are natural laws. Yeah? After some time, nobody questions them anymore. And they are very often spread with deep conviction from people with little experiences. And this is really something that and trend that was only possible with the internet and with social media. In this way, because when I started out, we didn't have anything like the internet and things. So we had really, we had to understand things and make our own thoughts about it, and not just parrot what other people are telling. Yeah, and a lot of these beliefs, they develop their own life, and they are very hard to fight. If you thinking differently on a different way, a lot of people will say, "Oh no, it's not right. You don't do software like this, yeah." And then you ask, "Yeah, but why?" And then they look at you and have no real answer. But but it's how you do it. So I really, I want to really, I beg everyone. Start to question things and try to understand why are you doing things the way you are doing. And there are some reasons for the situation. Some people, they love theoretical debates. I mean, I don't know how many debates we had about, you have to use an IOC container, service locators are bad, and if you don't do it dependency injection through constructor, it's a bad thing. And at some point, we just said, hey, honestly, why do we discuss this? We have to ship working software at some point, yeah? And if it works, then just use it, yeah? And use the things that really helps what you are doing. Yeah, that's actually, I guess, a pretty big one, that we humans really, we want to belong to something, to some tribe. And if it's a tribe that is using a certain state management technique, then people will always tell you, no, you have to use block, no, you have to use Riverpod. And so it's or that if you do it in a certain way, yeah, you're doing it wrong. Then also we have one aspect that is, I call it the crisis of inexperience in software. Uncle Bob, I'm not a very big fan in general of him, but he made a very good point out about this. There is no other industry than our industry that has such growing demand of new developers every year, which leaves our industry in a constant state of inexperience, because we have a huge group of beginners, of junior developers, and because the demand is so high, for years the debate is how can we fix it, yeah? And one idea that comes again and again is we just need to use some new paradigm. We need some new principles that will fix it, yeah? We had this with test-driven development, yeah? You have to use, you make test-driven development, it will help you. Or suddenly, yeah, functional programming languages. It's the only way to get something done. And all of them, they are not really addressing the problem. The problem is we have inexperienced programmers. So the only really way to write good apps and applications is you need experienced people. And yeah, in my opinion, AI will make it way worse because especially young developers stop thinking. They just ask for, if they hit the wall with a problem, they don't think alone. They ask ChatGPT, and if they don't get a reply, they are lost. Yeah. So really, it is way more that we have a different sort of crisis currently, that we have to start again or continue again really thinking on our own and understanding. Yeah, functional programming is definitely something that has its place in certain applications, and it has huge benefits to create very stable and robust systems. And in functional programming, indeed, because functions return typically new objects, immutable objects make completely sense. Yeah, so you call a function, you get new objects back. It's fine. But what happened was that from there, a lot of people started to transfer the idea objects have to be immutable to any other language, to object-oriented languages too. And in my opinion, that's the wrong path, because mutable objects aren't evil. The core idea of object orientation is that I have an object that holds data, has methods that will mutate the data, and you have a clearly defined interface. So this fits perfectly to Flutter, because if I have an object with a listenable interface, like a change notifier, I call a function on an object, I mutate the data, the UI updates because it listens and observes the object, yeah? If this object is immutable, I can't do this as directly anymore. And yeah, I mean, basically, if you make all objects immutable, then you're no longer programming object-oriented. You're doing procedural programming with structs and nothing more. And it is definitely, it's true. You need to know what you are doing, but if you're giving up this part of object orientation, you're losing a lot of elegance and beauty of your code. And in the end, if you want to achieve the same functionality and performance with immutable data structures, you have to write a lot more code, and in most cases, the code is not as expressive and understandable as what it's doing. Yeah. Obviously, immutable data there are risks, yeah. But we are back again at the point, you have to know what you are doing. If you don't know how to code, if you don't understand what your code is doing, what objects are, then it's not a problem of mutable objects, it's a problem you are not experienced enough. And a lot of, for example, the aspect multi-threaded programming is not a problem for us at Dart. Yeah? So this is definitely not something we have to worry about. And sometimes, yes, it can make things a little bit more complicated. And while debugging, you can sometimes wonder, oh, what's currently happening? But these are areas you can handle them. So, if you think I say I'm completely against immutability, or what we are talking here about, then you're a little bit mistaken, because the goal is never immutability. The goal is controlling the access and the modification of your data. And you can do this by other means, way more flexible and elegant than you do if you just use some data class and think you are done. So, beginning with, make only the properties public that really needs to be public of an object. Use abstract interfaces. Then that hides the and only publish the abstract interface to the parts of the team that does not need to know what's the internal what's going on internally. Final variables are fine, yes. If they are just initialized once, make them final. It clearly communicates, but it's not the point to make them immutable for immutability, but because it makes sense. Yeah. And then very important, expose data with public getters and use methods or commands to modify the data. So I'm definitely not a fan of setters, because they hide what's going on. But if you use this way, you have always control what's going on. You can put a breakpoint in the command that updates your code, and you completely control who accesses when your data. And one pattern that's proved very, very successful in our project over the last 2 years is a proxy pattern. So, if we, for example, let's take a very simple app example, some sort of social media feed where I have here data from a backend, and I can think like, etc. So this might look like that my backend returns me an DTO like this, which is, for example, it could be this is generated from some open API spec or from some other thing, but this is your data that you get over the wire. Now, instead of working directly with this, we wrap it into a proxy object. So a proxy object contains the actual DTO, and besides that, it contains getters that access the properties inside your DTO. With this, if we look a little bit closer here, we can make this a little bit more more flexible. Wait, I think I have to switch to, yeah. So I have I can update a new version from my backend, which will just override the target property and then call the notify listeners, for example. It also allows me doing things like, if I implement the like functionality, I can easily implement an optimistic update. So in this case, when the like function is called, I assign an override variable called notify listener, update the UI already, and in case, then I do the API call, and in case this fails, I can easily undo it. Please forgive me the very crude snack bar here. Yeah? It's just a very simple way to show how it happens. Yeah. So this is what I'm doing here. When now in this case, the code behind currently is in a way that in 50% of the cases the call will fail, and it immediately undoes it, and the UI reacts immediately, and it's all handled just by the proxy object, and you have what would I say? You get a lot of flexibility in this, and still from the outside this is an immutable interface, yeah, more or less. You only read data and modify only the intermediate state that you cache. And in the UI, it's extremely easy to consume, yeah? In this case, I use watch_it as in the case, so I get the post proxy passed into my widget. I just watch the object, and depending on the like state, I call the like or the unlike function. So it's very straightforward. So we can achieve a lot of different things here. We have, what I said, optimistic UI updates is one thing, but you can also selectively cache certain backend values. And just because you use getters, you can easily pull certain properties of the object separately cached from the rest of the object. Yeah? So you get a lot of flexibility which data you get and how do you cache data. You can combine multiple DTO objects from different endpoints into one proxy object and handle this as one object in the UI. And it's a way in case your DTOs is generated from some backend specification, for example, you can extend functionality by adding the functionality to the proxy object that just wraps your data object. Now, the interesting thing comes, let me show you. Just a second. Come on, come on, come on. Imagine you have, which is quite typical in social media apps, you have in different parts of the app some feed with different filters, but it is possible that the same object is displayed in multiple feeds. Yeah. And like we have here, yeah, we have different feeds. And for example, if I like here, I want that all my other feeds will immediately update also with the new like state. Yep. So if you manage your data as completely immutable objects, and you get from your backend from different endpoints, for example, for one feed, you get a list of objects back. From another endpoint with another filter, you get another list of objects back. How do you merge them together if these are immutable objects, yeah? And how do you keep them in sync? With proxies, yeah, like here. This is this example from a real app. So The idea is what we are doing here is that we use one central repository, and for example, in this case, the underlying proxy for this feed and in this feed reference both the same object in the repository, but each feed has a list of references to these proxies in the repository. Yeah. I show you how this looks in code. So the one thing that we have is we have an additional option to update the target inside our proxy, which will assign a new value and assign notify listener, and also clear all of the override values that we might have from from updates. And important, we have a reference count now in. And in our post manager, in the post repository, we use a very simple map with an ID and post proxies. And every time we load a new DTO from any endpoint that we have, we call the create proxy function, which will check, do we already have this DTO in our repository? If yes, we are only updating, we are only, we are only updating the target with the new DTO. If not, we create a new proxy and insert it into the repository. And every time we are done, if we are no longer using an object, we call release proxy, reduce the reference count by 1, and if we are 0, we can remove it from the repository. And by this, we get completely. We have the same underlying objects in both list views, and we are always in sync with our data throughout the application. We can make it a little bit more, even a little bit more nicer for the implementation. If we switch from just simple functions to commands. A command is an object that wraps typically an async function, and Flutter commands has a certain additional properties, which are all value listenables for while the command is executing. If the command can be executed, if there are errors, and for the result. So when I trigger the command, can execute will get false. Is executing is true. And with this, we can make the code even a little bit nicer. Then our post proxy, suddenly it gets an update command, which contains the async call. We have the ability to use the different the executing state of commands and combine them, like if you would have you might know this from Rx, but this here are value listenables that we can combine with the result. So we have a command restriction value listenable, and we pass that directly to the command as when we create a command as an input, which will automatically make sure whenever the update command is running, no other command can be executed at the same time. The same, and the like command has the same restriction passed in, and makes sure so you can't like while the other command is updating your data. And in case of an error, we are undoing the optimistic update. And to consume this in the UI, we just can use here this command icon button, which watches the can execute property of the command and calls the command. And if I switch over to this one, come. And if you now look closely, the moment I update here, or I update here, all the other buttons automatically get disabled. And this is completely done on the data layer. Yeah, so the rest of the UI does not have to worry where this how this restrictions are handled. It's completely done in the data layer. The UI just observes the different value listenables of the command and can display the correct state, and only execute if the value listenable is that allows you to execute is true. And if it's getting a little bit more complicated than just undoing a bool value that you have. I mean, bool value is relatively easy. You can just negate it again, yeah. But if you use an undoable command, which gets when it is executed, it gets passed in an undo stack variable, and in case of an error, the undo function is called, which gets passed in the exact same stack again. So in the beginning of this command, we push the current state on the undo stack. We do our optimistic update. We call notify listener, and then we call the API. And in case of an error, it will automatically undo our local state, update the UI, and update the UI. And this all gives you a lot of control over your data. And so we are achieving that we, on the one side, we control access and execute and modification of our data, and on the other side we get way more flexibility than if we just use some data class that and we have to do all code in some function separately from them, and we have always to call things like copy with and deal with a lot of with new copies. And yes, there is an. If you want to have a closer look at this, there's a full two-part blog post that goes into the details and the repository to it. And I can only recommend try it, play with it, and find a way that is really making you productive, instead of just following what seems to be the best practice of the week, I would say. Thank you. Questions, if anyone? Okay, no questions. Oh, yes. Look, can you get, yeah. No, look, for the camera.
Yeah, sorry. For people who haven't used commands before, what do you think is like the biggest benefit they would find from using them?
The biggest benefit of commands is that it wraps a lot of functionality that you would have to do otherwise. Things like they automatically protect you from double execution of the same command. They handle the things like loading states, and also what is really nice is this, it has not, that you have the combination of it signals, not just the loading state, but can the command execute it currently, for example, yeah? And can execute it is depending on, is it currently running, but also if I have a restriction passed into the command, then this is the combination. If the restriction is true, the command can't execute, so the can execute property will be found. So it really, you can do the same thing manually, but then typically you need, for every function that you have in an object, you need 3 or 4 separate value notifiers, and this is already combined inside the command. Yeah. And the other thing that is, I think that makes them extremely powerful is the error handling, because all exceptions that the code inside your command throw will get published on the errors property, which is a value not listenable. But you can additionally add an error filter, which controls is this error published on the errors property of the command locally, or will it be sent to the global error handler that of all commands have a combined global error handler? So, which is, or you can have both. Yeah. So it's very, especially this ability. On the one side, you deal with the. You can use exceptions in your in the code that directly calls your endpoint or into the operating system. But the commands converts the exception into a value in an observable object. Yes. So in my opinion, it's the better way than just have a try except and return some result value. Yeah, because then you have to deal. You have on each step you have to check these result values. And in this case, is if I don't deal with the, if I don't listen on the errors property locally, it will automatically handle it in the global handler. Yeah, and this takes a lot of burden from me, because I just don't miss anything, and my code won't crash. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Okay, Adam. Hmm?
So, like, I guess like one of the things you were saying about mutable states is like it's okay to have them if you have a lot of experience and understand what's going on. But you know, when you're talking about if you have like a large developer group working on a project, and you have the problem as you're talking about if some people like aren't as experienced, how do you deal with that problem? Would you say?
Honestly, I don't think that just making data mutable, making data immutable will save you in this case. Yeah. So I think really the most important thing is in this case I would definitely use more abstract interfaces for certain components, and only hand out the abstract interface definition to the other groups. Yeah. So they really have only access to what they have to, and also there, I mean. If you use commands, for example, at least you will know if there is an exception, it will end up in the global exception handler, yeah? Which is makes things easier. If you tell your developers, you that you for every call that you make from the UI, you don't use functions, you use in command. Yeah, you have a lot of problems solved. So, yeah, and also if you saw because a command itself. Oh, I have to say. This is the Flutter command package, yeah. But the commands itself are value listenables. All properties are value listenables. So you can consume and observe them with either the basic value listenable builders from Flutter, from any of the state management solutions, or if you use Watch It, it's super easy. Yeah? So especially for unexperienced people. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Really enjoyed your talk. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Testing, testing. Oh. Thank you everyone for coming to Fluttercon. Woo! That was the last talks of the day. That's it really. Thank you. I hope you have a safe journey home and thank you for coming. Make sure you fill up on water on your way out.